Hello everyone, Jolene here from Bookworm Adventure Girl. Welcome back. I hope that you are all well. And if you are new, thanks so much for checking out my channel. Please hit subscribe and stick around. Today I am going to be talking about 11 books that I have put on my TBR because of you. I've done a couple of these videos now, at least like this, and these are kind of books that people have recommended that I thought sounded really good. Or, as I watched booktube videos, these are the books that kind of caught my eye and appealed to me. So I'm going to share the books that are now on my TBR with all of you because maybe, they might be interesting to you as well. So the first book on my list is Honeybee by Craig Silvey. And I first heard about this from Scott from Gunpowder Fiction and Plot. And Scott talked about this in a video about the best books he's read since COVID. And I will leave a link to that video below so that you can check out Scott's other books on the list too. So what appealed to me about this book in particular was the premise. It's an unlikely friendship that begins when a 14-year-old and an older man meet on a bridge where they are both planning to die by suicide. And their lives change forever from this encounter. And Scott says that the takeaway from this novel is Sam's, the 14-year-old's, exploration of their gender. So it just sounds like this one kind of grabs you from the beginning and has a very compelling story. The next book was recommended by S. Vance, who is a subscriber and commenter on my channel. So S. Vance recommended several books in the comments in the video, the Get Outside with Book tag. And the one that I want to highlight here is Call Me Indian. From the trauma of residential school to becoming the NHL's first treaty Indigenous player. And this is by Fred Saskamoose. And as many of you know, I read a lot of Indigenous stories, and this has been on my radar, so I am drawn to this story. I am actually thinking about doing this book with a pairing like I did in my last video, and I'm hoping to pair it with a recent book, so stay tuned for that. And thanks again for the recommendations. Another subscriber and commenter that offered several recommendations that all sound good, and it was also on the Get Outside with Books tag, and that is Kath Russell. Kath said that an all-time favorite is Clear Waters Rising by Nicholas Crane, and Kath said that this is a travelogue of Nicholas Crane's walk across Europe by way of the mountain ranges. So I really like these kind of books that are about a journey and usually, about learning and growth and finding insight for ourselves. So this is a new to me book and author, and I think it's one that I will enjoy. So thank you to Kath for the recommendation. Next up is another recommendation from that video. I got a lot with that video. Jack from Spread Book Joy commented and recommended The Salt Path by Raynor Wynn. And this is a memoir about her and her husband walking the Southwest Coast Path in the UK. And this is after they were homeless in their 50s. So again, to me, this just sounds like it will be a story of journey and growth. So I appreciated Jack for making me aware of this book. Next is from the Faces of Horror tag. So the original creator of the tag is Juan from Plagued by Visions. And when I did the tag, one of the books that I used for a prompt, and I talked about it, was The Only Good Indians by Stephen Graham Jones. And Juan recommended Mapping the Interior by Stephen Graham Jones. He said it was phenomenal, very wistful, and tragic. So I was like, sign me up. The main character in this is a 12-year-old boy, and I do love young narrators, especially if they're written well, and it sounds mysterious, and I loved Stephen Graham Jones's writing, so I look forward to checking this out too. Next is from a video that I watched on Sarah's channel from Hard Covered Hearts. Sarah did a week of reading video on July 17th and said that she was buddy reading The Country Girls by Edna O'Brien with Eric Carl Anderson. And Sarah said she was really enjoying the read, and I was interested in it because it is about female friendship, which is, you know, a theme that I really like, and it's an Irish novel. And I've never read Edna O'Brien, even though I do have, I think, one or even two of her books. So this is now on my radar as well. Next up is a book that I learned about from Fraser at Fraser Simon's Springboard Thought. And Fraser did a review video, and in it he talked about The High House by Jessie Greengrass. And this story sounded interesting to me. It's about an environmental disaster and members of a family who take refuge in a high house to be safe from the rising waters. And I want to read this one first because I think this one is like, it'll have where the house is kind of becomes a character, and I love that. And it sounds like it might be a closed room type of story, and it will be about family dynamics and survival. And those are all themes that I enjoy, so it has a lot going for it for me. Next is a recommendation from Instagram. I did a post about Canadian picture books, and I also did a video about that, which was part of the Picture This 2022 readathon that was hosted by Jack at Spreadbook Joy and Shelly at Shelly Swearingen's Library. On the Instagram post, Rebecca from Canada Reads American Style, she commented and recommended I Talk Like a River by Jordan Scott. So this looks like a beautiful picture book, and it's about a boy who stutters and how he finds his voice. Okay, I have a few more to go here. Next up is a book that Michael Romeo talked about in his original tag that he just put out, and it's the book to movie adaptations tag. And Michael mentioned a book called My Old True Love by Sheila K. Adams. And this is the book that Michael chose for the prompt that he wished it would be made into a film. But he also said that he thinks only he and his wife have read the book. So I had never heard of this book or this author, but it does sound like an epic story, and it takes place in the 1800s. And from the sounds of it, there will be, war and love and ballads. So I'm thinking it will be an interesting story. Okay, two more books to go. And the first is a recommendation from V at Sassy Library Fox. V did the mid-year freakout tag, and it mentioned a book called A Small Hotel by Suanne Laqueur. And this is the first that I've heard of this author, and it's the first in a series. V said that Suanne Laqueur is an underrated author, so I like finding out about underrated authors. And V also said that this author writes really good characters, which I absolutely love. So I actually don't know much about the book itself, other than it takes place in Europe in the 1940s, and people like V have really praised the writing, so I'm going to go with that. And then the final book was recommended to me by two and actually three people. Lindy from Lindy's Magpie Reads, who watched my video on a book pairing and Little Free Libraries. And in one of the Little Free Libraries, there was a book called The Sparrow by Mary Doria Russell. And I had never heard of the book or author, and Lindy said she had been wanting to read it for quite some time. And then Cheryl Stevens, who is a subscriber and commenter, said it is an excellent book and that I should go back and grab it. So I did. I took the pups for a walk. And unfortunately, all of the books that were initially there in the video are no longer there. So that was disappointing. They were all new books. So this has now made me interested in what this book is all about. Plus, just as I was about to film this video, Fraser Simons commented and said, this is supposed to be a pretty good book. So I'm taking it as a sign, now that three people have told me that I really need to read this. And The Sparrow was published in 1997, but it takes place in 2019. And this is like a science fiction or fantasy book, which is usually not my thing, but it does have me intrigued. There's proof of extraterrestrial life that has been found on another planet when a listening post picks up singing, and a scientific exploration finds a world that is beyond our imagination. So now this is totally on my radar, and I am on the lookout for another copy. Maybe it'll show up again in one of the little free libraries. So those are the books that I've put on my TBR over the last little while because of your recommendations. Always appreciate hearing about books that you're enjoying and that you think others would like as well. I will leave a link to all of the channels and videos that I mentioned below, so be sure to, check those out if you are interested in even more recommendations from all of these people. Please let me know if you have read any of these books or if you would like to read them. Are there any books that you've put on your TBR recently because of a recommendation from someone else? I look forward to chatting with you in the comments. Thanks again for watching. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and don't forget to make every day an adventure.